This is a response for IBMOR. He was talking about education and educating the Black community. I would say for a good 20 years, I thought that money, having jobs, and having political power was going to raise the prospects of the Black community. And then I started working with a lot of Asian people and other people that had come from someplace else, came from outside the United States. And a lot of these people had a small community or very little community. They didn't have any ties to anything when they came here. Basically, they were poor. I mean, dirt poor when they came to this country with no prospects. So they had no generational wealth that had been passed down. So their only route was basically hard work. And since the United States gave them opportunities, because it wasn't a closed caste system like where they came from or like other parts of the world where you had to be born into a certain society to move up, otherwise you were blocked. United States wasn't like that. United States was basically a wide open liberal country. So they knew that since they were adults and they had gotten here, that their time to make the mark in their community was pretty much past. The best that they could do was work very hard, get together with their women, and prepare and educate their children to the greatest extent possible. Now, people have a funny idea about education. Probably because we've been in the United States so long, we have a funny idea about education. And for a long time, I did have that same idea about education until I became a Gnostic. And then I found out what education was actually for. Education is preparation for your life's work. Education itself is not your life's work. Obtaining a degree, which is what they push you for, is an accomplishment, but it means nothing if it doesn't prepare you for the rest of your life, if it doesn't prepare you to go out and do great things. And as I went over my education as a boomer and seeing what kind of mistakes not only the schools made, but my parents made, I started to study not about education, but about learning. And I realized if you hone it down, from educating my own children, if you hone it down to the basics and you master to the greatest extent the basics, you can prepare a child to do anything on this planet. If you teach him to read to the greatest extent possible, if you teach him to write to the greatest extent possible, as far as getting his language down, and you give him that last language, which is mathematics, to the greatest extent possible, then that child will be prepared for anything that any school, any profession can throw at him, because everything is based on reading, writing, and mathematics. Reading is learning how to read and comprehend and absorb information and learn through books. Writing is how to disseminate that information and make your thoughts clear. The third thing is how to manipulate numbers and formulas. Since the universe is number, the key to unlocking it is mathematics. If you train your child to the greatest extent possible, read, write, and mathematics, then there's nothing that the system can throw at them that they can't overcome, that they can't accomplish with those tools. After that, giving them practical knowledge, how to build things, how to use tools, how to use the brain. Nowadays it's programming a computer. If you get the first three down, kid can pick up a book, understand what's in that book. No matter how complex that book is, with those three things all locked down, he can pick up any book, learn any skill as far as knowledge base, learn how to program a computer, learn how to build a computer, Take on mathematical formulas, because that's all engineering is mostly formulas. If he's got his math down, he knows how to read and knows how to absorb, he can do all that. But that is educating the children to the greatest extent possible. Now, on to the black community. America, and black people in particular, see our children wrong. We see them as love objects, emotional objects of affection. We see them almost as pets. Do we care for their happiness? Sure. We give them things, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with giving them things. There's nothing wrong with preparing for them and giving them money so they can have money to start off a business with. But the thing is, before you, just like giving a 6-year-old a 45 automatic and not teaching that child how to use it, he's going to kill you, and he's going to kill himself, because he has not been trained. And that's what money will do. If the child has not been prepared for that money, that's why no rich person hands over the keys to the business to the child that has not been prepared. And every kid that has gotten vast amounts of money and has not been prepared, what does they do with it? They become Paris Hilton. They run it into the ground. They'll wind up in their 40s broke, having done nothing. They'll run the business into the ground. Money is just a tool, just as your children are tools to build your society, to build your culture, to build your people. They're just components. They're brilliant components. They're emotional components. But yes, all that is true. But the thing is, they have to have a purpose. Black people, and black women especially, do not understand that. Asian people and Asian women especially understand that that child has to have a mission and has to have a purpose to lift her and those people out of poverty and out of whatever situation they find themselves in. But to prepare those children, and to prepare these children as a group, because it's going to take more than one. You can't have 10% out there that are prepared and ready to go do great things and expect change. Those 10% will do nothing but be absorbed. The talented 10th goes back 150 years. They get their wealth, they get their education, they do some good things. They might even move the needle a little bit, but they can't lift the whole society, because the 10% of anything cannot lift that boat. It's the 90% that lift the boat. And the 90% have to be prepared. And the 90% have to be taught, have to be prepared, have to be situated to lift our people. You can do it in a generation. It can be done in a generation, because if you prepare a whole generation, if you prepare 10 million black kids to go all at the same time, to go out and basically financially, physically, financially, and educationally conquer. They can come out and they can affect change. They can not only move the needle, they can lift the community. But it takes sacrifice. It takes sacrifice by all the adults to train these instruments to actually go out and affect change. That takes the will of the adults to be wise enough, to be strong enough, to be persistent enough, to have enough discipline to sacrifice themselves. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take sacrifice themselves to push these kids ahead. How do you think the Jewish people did it? They didn't just get together and say, we're just going to take over the world and we're just going to earn a bunch of money. It took Jewish people all over the world, a generation right after the Holocaust, to sacrifice. They sacrificed everything to effect change. The ones that couldn't earn $1 million, they got out in the streets and they protested. The ones that couldn't protest, they supported. They went to the synagogues and they supported and they taught. And they opened up the schools, and they sat there and they read the Jewish language. They sent their few dollars to Israel. It took a whole people to condition and change those children. Every Jewish kid knows about the Holocaust, knows about all those stories. Whether they accept those stories or not, they know about them. They know what it is to be Jewish. They've been trained to the greatest extent possible, not only by the parents, but by the whole community. That's what it takes. The ones that went before them, they didn't become rich. Not all of them became billionaires. Not all of them became bankers. Their only thing was to push those children forward so that those instruments could go out and do work and lift the community and lift the people. I don't think black folks have the fortitude, the will, or the discipline to do any of this, especially the women. The women are too busy fighting the men about bullshit. Asian women, I've heard many stories about Asian women that abandoned by whatever husband, soldier husband that they had, they got dropped them over here. And guess what they did? They worked 2 jobs. They put every penny they could into making sure that that child had a chance to be the best person they could be, the most educated, the most eloquent, hardest working person they can be. Black people are too busy trying to push their kids off onto the school system or onto daycare or to Chuck E. Cheese or to Disneyland, anything to keep them entertained so that they won't have to deal with that child and preparing that child for the future to help his people. We're not giving black children a mission. If you read Amy Chua's book, the first thing that strikes throughout the whole court of the book is that kid's got to have a mission. I don't care if they're tired. I don't care if they don't want to do it. I don't care if they don't want to learn. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep at this because this child is not a child. It's a little adult. And I have to grow this little adult big and strong and powerful and healthy so that child can bear fruit, and that fruit can feed the rest of the community and shade and cover and protect our people. And it cannot happen without sacrifice. Those trees can't grow by themselves. Those trees cannot nurture themselves. They have to be shaded. They have to be grown. They have to be protected from insects. All that stuff has to be done to a tree. So when that tree gets big enough, 20 years later, it can bear fruit. And it can bear fruit for 80 to 100 years. And when it bears fruit, it can bear sprouts that will be just as strong or stronger than it. Because if we teach our kids to sacrifice so that you can lift your people, what do you think they're going to teach their kids? They're going to teach their kids the same thing, that my parents sacrificed so that I could be better, so that I could have what I have. So when they have a child, they're going to teach. So you're going to be better than me, and you're going to take our people to greater heights. But it can't be 1, 2, 3% like it is now, or 5%. Or I'm out here hustling, making moves. You make moves for a purpose. Because you're making moves, you're making a whole lot of money. What's going to happen? The whole thing is going to go down the tubes. Look at what's going on to Master P. Regardless of what motherfucking Master P did or what he's done on the road, this dude has built an empire. And I have 6 children, and I should be there along his side, regardless of whatever other bullshit is going on, because I want these 6 children to be powerful and go out and do things for my community. What is she doing? She partying with her friends and laying up with thugs, and none of her girlfriends are saying, "Look, bitch, you got a man that's made some moves. You got 6 children that need to be taken care of so they can carry on the legacy that he was fortunate enough to fall into and push forward." You're trying to spend the wealth, regardless of whether you hated the man's guts and vice versa, where he hated that woman's guts. These children need to be prepared and they need to be pushed forward. That's what our parents knew. That's what we have lost. Black women should not be able to divorce that man. Don't give a fuck. If he's not beating your ass, then you need to stay with him, because I don't give a fuck if you're unhappy. You got married, and the thing is that this community, this African American, cannot be pushed forward with selfish attitudes, with the me shit. And then you get this me shit, and then guess what happens? You turn around and wonder why the community's fucked up. Oh, you can't touch my kid. My kid would never do anything wrong. Child, I'm too tired to go down to the PTA meeting. I'm too tired to go to the school board and ask for an all boys school that's going to help my kid move forward. Everybody got their fucking hand out for a goddamn check. Let me stop, because I'm going off on a tangent. The only way out of this, the only way forward is education. Jobs will help. Money will help. Doing business will help. But if you don't prepare the children going forward, it will be for a generation only, because guess what's going to happen? The next generation, when you die, guess what's going to happen to it? You're going to have unprepared children, money in unprepared hands, and guess what's going to happen? It's going to get spent. It's going to go right down the tubes. Whereas an immigrant community can come in with dirt poor with nothing. And in second generations, all of a sudden they're on top, and they're making moves. Somebody's got to sacrifice. Anyway, Ball, I don't know how long this is, but that's my take on education and why it's important. Money's just a tool. Education is also a tool. The same thing with your children. They're tools. It takes will. That's the most important thing. Will and discipline are more important than money and education, because money and education are just tools. You can acquire tools. You can use tools, but they have to be wielded by a strong will and even stronger discipline, which black folks, I'm sorry to say, do not have. So all I got to say, hope this gives you something to think about, and I'll talk to you on the next one.